I do. Yeah.
Is it weird?
Yeah. Yes, it is. In a fun way. I like this.
Yeah. This is my show, dude.
I'm on the radio.
You are.
Nice. I'm on the tube.
Okay, so I'm going to hit record here, and then we'll roll. Okay, we are rolling. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first Rock Shop Community Podcast here in beautiful Nyack, New York. I'm here with Joe Garreffa.
Hey, how's it going, Dylan? Hey, everybody.
Thanks for coming on, Joe. This is going to be fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So this particular podcast is sponsored by, you guessed it, the Rock Shop in Nyack. And thank you to the Rock Shop for providing us with the gear and the space. And Joe has two local businesses. So you have Creative Arts Work Nyack. Is that right?
Workshop.
Creative Arts Workshop Nyack. And where can we find that?
That is up at 171 Main Street. We're just next door to the DDA Patisserie pastry shop.
Great. And where can we find that online?
www.arts-workshop.com. Hashtag Creative Arts Workshop Nyack.
All right. That's cool. So before we go too deep into what you do and your businesses in Nyack, let's start off with where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little suburb of Detroit called Redford.
Okay.
Redford Township, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's in Michigan. I was in Saginaw once.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I know about Michigan. I played there once. That was fun. So Michigan is cold up there, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember 6 foot snow, certain times. I don't see that much anymore. But it was a really, really great place to grow up. Like, we were 15 minutes from downtown Detroit when we turned 18. A lot of, back in that time, a lot of us would go over to Canada and hang out in Windsor and go to casinos. And I would do karaoke at bars with my brother. And then as long as there was one DD, of course, you get back over the Ambassador Bridge. And there was a lot of great theater, a lot of great music. It was great growing up there.
Cool. And so tell me about your family, brothers, sisters, mother, father.
Sure. I got a mother, Donna, a father, Bob. He worked for General Motors.
Oh, cool.
Cadillac, so he worked on the line. So did, I believe, his father. My mom is Donna. She comes out to Nyack every fall. She's lovely. My brother passed on, but he was Tony, and he was also a rocker. He wrote music, and he played guitar, and he did stained glass, and he was a painter and a drawer. He was like everything. Mm-hmm. So, and then I have an older sister who's now a judge in Flint, Michigan.
Wow.
Where the water plays.
Yeah.
But she does a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, right on. So cool. So it sounds like a great family, very American story. Yeah. I mean, General Motors, how it doesn't get more American than that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, growing up in Michigan, a lot of what I've kind of reflected on is a lot of families either worked for, one of those big automobile companies. A lot of families also worked for some of the big pizzerias like Domino's. The headquarters is there. Little Caesars, their station there. They all started there. Hungry Howie's, which there aren't many Hungry Howie pizzerias out in this area, but they're in the rest of the country.
Oh.
But, yeah, that's Detroit for you. That car is great pizza.
Nice. I had no clue that was where pizza came from, and like they had it's deep dish, right? Kind of.
Well, yeah. Detroit Square is like they started baking pizzas at this little place called Buddy's Rendezvous. I think this was like the 50s. I could be wrong, but I think it's right in that area. And they were making basically bar pies. Like out here, Jersey, they call them bar pies, little things to keep people at the bar drinking and not getting completely blitzed. But apparently the story goes that there was an amount of like these blue steel trays that they were using at the automobile factories. And they got their hands on some that were being discarded. And they were just great, mechanisms for baking something. So the owner's wife, put dough in these things and would stack them on top of each other because that's what they were meant for, nuts and bolts. And they would stack up. And then the dough would rise. Anyway, long story short, she'd put some, at that point they were using this cheese called brick cheese, which was made in Wisconsin, which is kind of like a cheddar mozzarella blend. It melts beautifully, but it's got a little bit more kick than mozzarella. And so the cheese kind of like melts around the corners, the edges of the crust, creating like an all cheese crust. and then they would bake the dough and the cheese only. When the pizza comes out, it's like this little rectangular or square pizza, and then they put 2 stripes of sauce, just kind of like stripes on the car,
Okay.
as a Detroit, thumbs up or whatever. And that was the Detroit style pizza. But then, it caught on. Everybody started doing it at all the pizzerias. Like, I remember growing up, you would either order, you want square or you want round. And square meant that, all cheese crust, and yeah, it was
Cool.
good stuff.
Cool.
Now it's coming out. There's even the bowling alley in Haverstraw. There's a guy from Southfield, Michigan making Detroit style pizzas at that bowling alley. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's really tasty.
That's amazing. I remember I was in Wisconsin at some Ho Chunk Gaming Center playing, and that's the kind of pizza they had, and we were like only able to eat 1 slice each because they were so rich and hearty.
Oh, that is definitely right. It's not for the faint or anybody on some sort of diet, because it's all cheese. You get plenty of delicious crust. And there's actually another place out here in New York City doing it called Emmy Squared.
Okay.
And they managed to make a really, really, really light crust on it, which is it's a pleasant, surprise from some of the pizzerias like Little Caesars. Their Detroit style is just so. It's going to sit in your stomach. It's going to live there.
Yeah.
You're going to find a home for a little bit. But it's nonetheless, it's delicious and nostalgic. And
Great. Right.
Yeah.
Great. So then, okay, we're in that area of the country. You're 18 years old. You're going to Canada. You're coming back around. You're having fun in Detroit. You're eating pizza. Dad's got General Motors cranking. And how did you get to New York?
So, yeah, the school journey started. I moved to Chicago and tried to go to school there. And I had a great time kind of like coming out, finding my, self out there, but I never actually landed in school. So I moved back to Detroit and I kind of surfed around different sofas and stuff like that. Went to community college for a little bit. And a couple of friends of mine actually moved to New York to go to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy. And these are 2 girls I grew up with. So they came home to visit. They're like, you got to check out this school. It's very you. And, I remember talking to my mom and she's like, just do something. Actually, I was talking to a very good friend of mine, George. We grew up together since friends. And he was just like, find one thing and just focus on it and just try to finish it.
Yeah.
And so that has long time been kind of like a motto for me. I'm like, yeah, that's it. I gotta just focus. So I got on a plane by myself, came out to New York City. I auditioned, and I got in. So I moved out to New York City and went to school there for a couple years, and then bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada
That's it.
boom. That's great. So then you landed here, and you're probably, what are you doing? What kind of work are you doing?
Right now?
No, not right now. When you got here.
Oh, well, okay. So I started doing musical theater, so regional theater, dinner theater. I met Scott, my husband. We were both interns in Philadelphia at a theater called the Walnut Street. He was doing development. I was doing theater, and we had about 9 months to hang out in Philadelphia. And it's a great city. Scott and I just kind of found each other and would hang out all the time. I mean, we would go to the Little Italy. We would go to DeBruno Brothers and eat cheeses. We had a lot of similar tastes. He had a car, so we would like go to random Jersey towns and find little restaurants. Or, I don't know why we were obsessed with Bob Evans poppy seed dressing. So we would ride out to the middle of like nowhere and find a Bob Evans and get poppy seed dressing and just be like, oh, this is the shit.
Yeah.
So we became fast friends, and I moved back to New York City after that. And I was like, we would hang out a lot. And he's like, I can't always come to New York because he had, at that point, a regular 9-to-5 deal in Philadelphia. And I was still auditioning and working at a bakery here. And so I just started auditioning for shows exclusively in Philadelphia, and I got a couple. So I stayed out there another year and doing shows. And after that, we moved back to New York City. I went back to the bakery, and I found a random job post for a part-time gig teaching at an elementary school. And this is something I grew up in, that kind of realm of like children's theater and children's music and art, taking my brother to his art lessons. So that was always something that I really enjoyed. And I really appreciated the mentors I had, growing up in that. So I was like, this sounds cool. Let me become a teaching artist. So I put my resume out there, and I got an interview, and that really shifted everything. I started teaching there part-time and then became an assistant director. Then after that, the director, then a community school director. And I stayed at that school and with that agency for quite a while.
Wow.
And
Wow.
stayed in that academic. And even though I'm the least academic person, you probably really, but it was really interesting how I kind of landed in a school, because I was not ever good at school. I never thought I would become a teacher, or anything like that, but that's what happened.
Right on. Well, I'm glad you said that, because, I too suffered from a lack of academic ability. Mine was mostly just effort. If I wanted to do it, I could do it. I could get a good grade if I put any kind of, but I didn't want to do that. I was like, this is so silly. I'm not interested in calculus.
Yeah.
Why is it taking me 4 hours to do my homework after school? I want to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you said that, because, there's a lot of different solutions to that in life.
Yeah.
You just because you don't thrive academically, it doesn't mean you're dumb, and it doesn't mean you're not going to succeed. And you and I are both shining examples of that. And you don't have to follow normal paths. You can do whatever you want, and I'm really glad you touched on that, because I share similar feelings than you. Okay, great.
Well, and I'm glad you say it too, because it's so true. And I don't know, people, I don't remember talking about that or being guided like that with counselors. I remember being in the counselor's office in high school. High school, I was awful. I was more interested in skipping school. I had a car, so I drove downtown to the high school for the performing arts. And I was like, I'm leaving. We went to Cedar Point one time. I just got to school, and a friend was like, let's go to Cedar Point. I'm like, that sounds like a good way to spend the day. Now, I would go back to school and go to theater class, or I'd be in this class or do forensics. But everything else, I was just like, no, there's more. There's other things that I was struggling with my own identity. So I would go to the bookstores and get books about homosexuality and try to figure out what that meant for me spiritually and as a person. And that is kind of intrigued me, and that I didn't realize was my learning style, experience, and like you said, finding what makes your heart kind of pit and patter.
Sure. Yeah, it's so important. I couldn't believe it when I first got to college that I still had to take math classes.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? Everyone's been telling me my whole life that as soon as you finish high school, you get to pick what you want to learn about. And I was like, okay, great. Now I'm going to pick it. And then they were like, okay, here are your core classes. This is your English class. This is your science. I'm like, whoa. I'm going to pay you extreme high amounts of money to still learn about crap I don't want to learn about. I did it. I got a degree, but begrudgingly so.
Yeah, of course.
I learned so much more about myself by doing.
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
I have a degree in audio production.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I guess I'm using it now.
Yes.
But I learned that I didn't want to be in audio production. That's what I learned from school. But anyway, different strokes for different folks. It's just important to have these kinds of conversations.
Absolutely.
And it's beautiful to see you as a community leader instructing these young children and supporting them in their creative endeavors and teaching them that there aren't cookie cutters to everybody's learning style, and teaching, okay, we can all do something different here.
Yep.
You and I are both doing that in our own way, which is, I'm thankful that you're here, and I'm hoping that people are thankful that I'm here to kind of steer them in the right direction too, or whatever direction that might be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really proud of us, Joe.
I am too, Dylan, I have to say. We partnered in the past on a lot of different endeavors, and part of, I think, what I wanted to always create in my work environment when I became an assistant director, I was like, oh, this is important. There's leadership involved, and to me, what was always frustrating with the world is all the systems and people are talking about all this stuff now, systems and boxes that people are expected to live in, and you don't have to live in these systems. You can create your own. Somebody else created it, and we're just kind of following along. Or some of us. And you're totally right. And it's Nyack is a great place to do it, because every family that I've come into conversations with or a little bit deeper with, when it comes to talking about our families, people are willing to think outside the box and trust one another and have a good time and not take things too seriously, and understand that there's a balance, and
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so we're on the same page. That's a great thing, totally. And a great page to be on. And I guess that message that I'm trying to say is that, look, everybody's different. You can't teach a fish to climb a tree, and you can't teach a koala to swim in the ocean like a fish. Everybody's different, and everybody has different paths. And I've carved out my own. You've carved out your own.
Yeah.
So let's talk about yours some more. So you end up, you got this great gig. Are you guys married yet?
No, actually, not quite yet. We were living together. I mean, we had been together quite a while. We were 24, I think, when we met. We were living together. That was, I think, 2006 or 2005 when I started working at that school. And then we got married in 2011. Scott proposed to me. I never, again, going back to being a kid, I never really thought about things outside of things I just wanted to do. I was very excited and very enthusiastic, and I was always doing stuff. But I never really thought too much forward. Like going back to my friend George, who said, just focus on getting that school done.
Yeah.
And that is something I did. Anywho, out of the blue one day, Scott, we had a fight about my cat. and like, it was a Saturday, and I went to work Sunday morning. I was working brunch. Now, I was still working in restaurants. I love food. I really, this is a sidebar, but working in New York City in the restaurants really helped mold a lot of the things in my head too, and I loved it. It's crazy. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens. There's a lot of good stuff, but from a learning point of view. Anyway, I'm at brunch. My shift is ending, and I see Scott rolling up with like a suitcase, and I'm like, oh my God, he's moving out, or my cat is in that suitcase. I was like, what is going on? He looks, something's not right. And he was like, no, like, we're good. We're going to go to this bus. And he took me back to Philadelphia. And up in the balcony of the Walnut Street Theatre, I used to have understudy cats, believe it or not. And I'd have to sit up in the balcony and watch my roles so I could, get the parts and remember it. And Scott would always come up there and sit, and we'd watch Cats, the musical, and, whatever. So he took me up to the same place, and the lights went off, and they had the ghost light on the stage, and he pulled out a ring, and I was like, what is happening? And, I was shaking, but it's, definitely one of the happy highlights of my life. It's one of those things that I didn't expect, and I felt very grateful. Like, somebody wants to spend their life with me. Oh, that's really sweet. So yeah, it was 2011.
I'm gonna cry. That was so sweet.
Yeah, we had been together for so long and been through so much. At that point, it was very, very organic. I remember at the beginning of our relation, we just were both like, listen, no strings attached. For 23 or 24, I guess that was pretty. I'm glad we did that and just said, if you find somebody, like, go, no strings attached. Let's just be friends and see how this rides out. And it did that for several, years. And then finally we just like, it's good. This is it. I think this is the boat we're in. Let's recognize and just, again, start writing down dreams. That's when we did start, coming down, or going out to dinner in the city and just start putting down on paper some of our dreams. We knew we wanted to be dads. We knew we wanted to build a family. So we'd like put it down, and then we just started putting money into a savings account. And, I wanted to go back to school. So that was one thing that I just focused on with his support, with his help and his family as well. But that was interesting because that was a point when we started putting pen to paper where I was like all about The Secret. And this guy, George, who I was talking about, he's a testament to that. I remember him telling me about that movie, The Secret, and it's all about that power of belief and just knowing that you can, and don't have to live in any constraints, or you can do whatever you want. Just gradually get there. And so, we started building things together.
Great. And some manifesting. And that's, that seems like a little woo-woo or a crusty kind of word or whatever, but it's true. Yeah. If you really think about something and you just put one foot in front of the other and keep focusing on goals and dreams and whatever, it happens.
Yep.
It happens, and through varying degrees of success and trials and tribulations and all sorts of things, but you don't have to follow normal paths. You can make your own. So cool. Very cool. I love the message we have today.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like the seed. When you're talking about doing these things and creating ideas, I'm like, okay, it's a seed, and you never know what that plant is going to come out. It could be a 20 tomato seeds, but they're all going to be different. Like, to highlight what you just said, like, you got to be open to how your dreams manifest, and if you can stay open to that and see how they come out, they may not always come out like you. You know, I guess I'm mansplaining, or maybe I'm not, but I just am excited about what you said, because some people do it, but they're just like, oh, but it's not exactly how I envisioned it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it might be something, you know, anyway.
You never know. It might be awesome. You know, that's a line that, like, maybe you should put bacon in spaghetti.
Yes.
You never know.
Yes.
It might be awesome.
Yes, baby.
Right. So here we go. Now you guys are together. That was such a sweet story. Thanks for sharing that with me. And
Totally.
I love those stories. I almost cried. It was great. And it's nice to hear that he was very romantic.
Yeah.
And I love that. Romantic myself. Definitely, admittedly, used to be a lot more romantic. Sorry, Rebecca. I'm going to catch up again. Don't worry. These kids are going to get older, and we're going to figure it out. Anyway.
I hear that, though.
Yeah.
Your family, it's all encompassing. It is a lot of work.
Yeah, plus business.
Yeah.
So let's get to the business. So when did you guys decide, you know what, let's make a go of it and come to Nyack? What happened? How did that happen?
Well, Michael, we brought home in November of 2016.
Michael's your son.
Michael is our son. Yep. He was just a couple months old. And we lived in Queens for about a year. It was the end of the following summer. We were in Forest Hills Park, and Scott got like an update or an ad or something for the Nyack Hotel for like an inexpensive rate. He's like, should we do this? We don't got anything going on. And they got a pool, and it's family friendly and all that. So we're like, yeah, let's go up. So we got in the car. We came up. We walked down Main Street. We walked past Carinderia, El Cunal. I remember seeing all these places, thinking like, oh, this is so cool. And walked down, and it was just so interesting because, you know, that little stretch between Carinderia and till you get down to more of the shops, it's a different feel. It's more of patchwork, and
Sure.
I enjoyed seeing this patchwork environment versus some other places that are very manicured and very well kept. And I say that with a lot of love because it's reality of life. It's not everything is freaking perfect.
Right.
So anyway, we walked around. We went to the library, met some lady who had just moved here with like a 2-year-old. The library, the beauty itself was kind of like intriguing. I think we might have been under a spell. I don't know. And talking to this woman who was like, yeah, we came up from Hoboken. And they had just bought a house here. And she was speaking it up. Anyway, we were having dinner, and a friend of ours, turns out she lived on Bird Street, right in the village.
Yeah.
She was like, I live in Nyack. Did you guys even know? We're like, no. So that kind of helped put the pieces together. I feel like the following week we came up because her stepmother was a realtor, showed us a house that Scott kind of looked at over on Depew. And we saw that house, and it was like walking into something that we both knew was just like, this is us. This is like, feels right. And yeah, long story short, we bought it. So like we came here to visit, and I think we moved. We were living here on November 17th, so maybe it took a couple months for everything to just kind of go. I remember coming over that bridge in the U-Haul. Michael was still at preschool in the city, and I was doing our last, move of furniture and stuff up here. Scott was out there. I remember driving over the bridge. I'm like, did we even talk or think about this? Like, we just went for it, did it. We saw it. It was something we always wanted to do. And lo and behold, you're like, oh, wow, I'm in a house. I feel like we just gave our social security numbers over there. Like,
yeah.
Okay, Here you go. This is what you need to do.
Right.
So
wild.
And that was it.
Yeah, I can like really, really relate to that experience of like, who am I living here in Nyack? What is here? But it is magical. And you touched upon it too with the spell feeling. I feel like since I got here, I've been under the spell of Nyack, and I've tried to leave. I've moved to Warwick twice.
Oh, okay.
And then I moved back twice.
It pulls you.
Yeah. I technically live in Valley Cottage now, and I'm 7 minutes away from my job. It's fantastic, but I want to live in the village.
Yeah.
I still want to. So speaking of manifesting stuff, I'm going to get back here
make it happen.
I have my business here, but I want to live here. My ultimate goal is to walk to work. I just think that's great. Do you walk to work?
We do. Yeah.
You do.
So, okay.
Tell me about it.
We walk to work, but we also have to drive because, like, at the cheese shop, there's always, like, laundry or whatever items that we have to bring there. So it's hard to walk with all this stuff. And if I'm going to the arts workshop, I usually, again, I have, like, deliveries of stuff. But, yeah, most days when I'm able to, we walk a couple blocks and we're at work and... You know, it's nice. My father taught me how to count blessings. And when I walk down Depew, I see a bit of the river and the sun. And I try to always remember to just take deep breaths and be thankful for just the view, for a flower, literally stop and smell the flowers and be thankful for. I'm pretty spiritual in the ways of who and what came before us. As far as our ancestors, your ancestors, they're around us. I'm taking it to a little different place, but maybe that's part of what makes Nyack special is there's so many people I met here who are open to that kind of belief and love and understanding of the world in which you live and honoring those people who came before you to help you get where you were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't do it alone. We have friends. We have people here tangibly on earth, but we also have spirits of the past pushing us forward if we allow that to happen. So I feel a lot of that around here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the beauty is great. It's wonderful to walk to work or drive if I have to. I want to get one of those little, I went to Texas to go see my nephew, and we were in San Antonio, and he's a teenager. Like, what do you want to do? And they had these like scooters, electrical ones that you can rent for like $7 for a couple hours.
Nice.
Downtown. Yeah. We went riding all over. I'm like, we need these in Nyack. There's a guy down like Franklin who I think rents them.
Oh.
But anyway, I want to get one of those.
That's fun.
Just kind of jet around.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Nice. So to touch upon what you said, you're right. There's a lot of spirituality here, and there's all these cool scenes where people go on retreats and they go to the Central American jungles and the South American jungles and all of these. There's like so many scenes here that you wouldn't know. You wouldn't see it with your eyes. You can't walk into a bar and find it. You have to really tap into whatever that energy is, and then you'll find a whole nother community. And what is that energy? I don't know. What are there ancestors around us? I don't know for sure, but I certainly can feel something that I know that it can't be measured by science. You know, whatever that is, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Take that as you will. It's just something that's intangible that, and it's a little more vibrant here in Nyack, I find, than in other places. And I don't know why that is, but I feel it. I do feel it.
I agree with you, and I cannot name it. I don't put a name on it. I don't believe in a lot of organizational beliefs about these because it's like nobody knows, and that's okay. It's okay not to have answers.
Agreed. It's better that we don't.
Yeah.
It's better that we don't. You can't measure it.
Yeah.
It's intangible. That's great. So then, okay, you guys are here in Nyack, firmly planted. You know, you're there. You got a house. You have a child. Now, when did you open these businesses that you have?
Yeah. So, okay, opening the businesses. We were both working in the city. Michael was 2. We both knew one of us needed to be here for when Michael was going to be, you know, like had 4 years old, preschool.
Yeah.
Or at least kindergarten. So we started thinking through, and you know, I really loved at that point what I was doing with the arts and bringing in programming to the schools. And one of the things that I saw a lot of in after school programs, because they would take me on site visits to a lot of different schools, and we would do observations and stuff like that of different programmings, different teaching artists. And I felt that we were doing something special because kind of like what we were just talking about, not being too serious about the structure and not always having to measure out an outcome. Like, for example, if a child comes in here for a lesson and you can't measure the outcome of each individual for something like art and creativity.
No.
Because even with it doesn't matter. What matters is the connections that are being made and the willingness to try, and that's it. And so I felt like a lot of teaching artists who were doing such amazing work are being, you know, stifled, and a lot of money is just being tossed to people in that realm that it's so unnecessary, where the money needs to be put into the hands of the artist.
Yeah.
And let the artist do the work. Let the teachers do the work.
Yeah. Of course.
And whoever is hiring these people, they're the ones who you need to look at, and the parents can get a grip of and understand like how are they managing these programs. So I started putting together proposals for what I thought would be a great community after school type program. That would be like either affordable for a school or affordable for fee, kind of like a blend of both, and sliding scale. And I started pitching that out. I sent it to the middle school. It ended up with Dr. Gregory, who is the former superintendent of curriculum. And so we started doing a Saturday program with I think it was 4th and 5th graders and some 6th graders at the middle school. And I would bring in teaching artists, and we did something called like Just Dance, where it was really the approach was for you. The idea behind this is that not all these kids care to dance. They may not have signed up for this.
Yeah.
So we got to think about it about thinking about that, and how do you manage to foster a group and engage with them, and then you can get them to move a little or dance. And that worked out really well. Cooking was one thing we did. We did Detroit chili dogs, and in each group we figured out which kids wanted to do like the to-go assembly, because we did it like they were at a Coney Island in Detroit. So from cooking the hot dogs and making the vegetarian chili and stuff like that, we had stations. It was really cool. Parents got involved. And it started great. We had good attendance, but then you know what happened.
I do.
The pandemic came. We did a bunch of stuff online though, so that was cool. So Creative Arts Workshop still existed as a company, and I started, like I mentioned, doing the online stuff. And in the summer, we did an online summer program, and then I rented out a little space on Bird Street, a little studio, and started doing what I called Kaleidoscope. So for any family at that point who felt comfortable with the kids coming out, I would do a 2-hour workshop where each week we would do like duct tape wallets or duct tape flowers, or each week it was something different. But we started with like a theater activity, getting to know you, just a little bit of movement, do the activity, and then like have a snack or something over food. And that's when the actual after school activity started slowly kind of picking up. We did a cooking one where we go, we croque monsieur. We would learn about the croque monsieur, make a croque monsieur, and while they're cooking, I'd take the kids to one of the restaurants around here, meet the chef, and they would talk about, oh yeah, this is the cheese we use here, la 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 la. So they're engaged with the community. And again, there's another layer of engagement to help the kids want to be here, because some kids who don't care about cooking, they just got thrown in there, may really care about going out and eating food, because they're like, cool, I can hang with my friend and Joe's not talking the whole time and I get to chill. You know, it's really got to be a balance of all these things. So that was it. We grew, and then we moved up the street to the bigger studio space, and and here we are.
Here we are. That's great. And now you have a shuttle, and you're like full time doing that. But you, in addition, and congratulations, I love what you do. I love seeing all your stuff online. I love hearing from the parents that come here. Oh, they were there with Joe. I loved your play that you put on with Rory and all those kids and Reese. And I love that you did Reese's role because she was sick. That's hilarious.
And you did her role too that weekend, right?
I was singing for her as well in the band in the Golden Laces.
Show's got to go on, man. I thought her father was joking when he called, because he's a joker.
He is. Dara.
No, that wasn't the case. I still feel so bad that she missed it, but those kids in particular, kids that like Rory is our neighbor.
Oh, wow.
Reese literally lives next door to me and her little sister. So we met there, right at the beginning. So it's also a very special thing that goes way back to when I was a little kid doing this stuff with a local person who was running the theater there. So I'm like, I feel so much gratification when I can do something like that. And especially like you inspired me doing it over at the RCC, because I've come to see several of the shows, and when you did the show upstairs at Prohibition and use that space, and all the parents are grabbing food and hanging out, it just really is a beautiful way to bring people together, because it gives them options. Like, if you know me, I love having an afternoon beer. I'll just be straight up. So the fact that we can chill, Michael, have a beer, meet some people, watch the kids, and support, that's amazing. And what you do at Nyack Center, that is, I think that's it's what you do is very inspiring as well.
Thanks.
So doing Really Rosie, definitely came from a culmination of a lot of cool things, and you definitely had a hand in it, because I think getting the kids out there in the community, having them in these different spaces, it's like this is their community for them to learn to respect it and honor it. I won't say respect, maybe that's not the right word, but honor it and be like, oh, this is, take pride. Maybe that's the right word.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, me too. I find what you and I both do is not only do we give them arts and music, but we give them adults in their lives who aren't like their regular teachers.
Yeah.
And who aren't their parents and who aren't their family members. We give them these one-on-one lessons with our team members and my instructors and whoever, teaching artists and yourself. And they look up to you, and they look up to me, and they look up to their individual instructors and teaching artists. And we're building their confidence, and we're showing them that, yes, this is your community. I take so much pride that the teenagers that come here to hang out, and they're safe to come here and hang out, and they can sit on our couches out there and just chill and be themselves. And, they're not getting in any trouble. Yeah. They're relaxed. Their parents aren't watching them, even though their parents probably have some app to track them on. Like, they're away. It's good to be away from your parents' eyes for a minute. And the fact that they feel comfortable here is amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. It's my crowning achievement there, that teenagers feel safe and comfortable in here. And we're not like, get out of here, you teens, you know? Because you can recall when you're a teenager going into a business, they don't want you in there. Yep. They don't think you're going to buy anything. They don't want you to hang out and loiter. I commend them for hanging out and loitering, and keep my eyes on them, knowing that they're staying out of trouble. Yeah. All right, so cool. So we got businesses here. We love our community. You also have two other businesses. You have Scott and Joe's.
Yeah.
And that's focuses on cheese, but it's also like a restaurant. And what else do you guys do there?
Yeah, so Scott and Joe came about because the opportunity came up to carry on that cheese shop. I mean, we had been going to that cheese shop with the previous owner since Michael was a baby. We would take him on his naps, roll him down. And the previous owner, Lisa, was very wonderful to us. She'd set us up in the back, and we'd sit and graze on cheeses and charcuterie. Like I mentioned, when we first met, we would walk to Little Italy in Philadelphia. I grew up as a food-loving kid. I grew up working in pizzerias and restaurants and this and that. So that has always been one of our favorite pastimes. So sit there, have olives, meats and cheeses, and she'd educate you about it. So it was wonderful. It's a learning experience. Then Michael's up, and we walk right down to Memorial Park, and enjoy the sunset. It's like, this is perfection. Anyway, so that came up for, as an opportunity for us to take over, and Scott was ready to move on from the non-for-profit world. He had been in that almost 20 years, which is weird to say, but he was like, yeah. So we gathered up what we could do, and we bought it, and it was super scary because we're like, whoa, we don't have insurance. What like all that typical stuff that you're kind of trained to, like, you need in this and this and this. Well, it worked out. Yeah. We didn't think too much about it. We just did it. And he's done a beautiful job with that shop.
Yeah.
That's really his child, his little love, cheese world. They offer classes now, so he partners with Jessica Kesselman. I believe I'm pronouncing her name right, she's a wonderful cheesemonger who's worked at like Murray's and knows all about Saxelby's and these wonderful cheese makers and cheese mongers. So she does classes with Scott. He does a lot of great farmers market salads and whatnot for lunch time. And the most beautiful thing is we can close it up at 6. And we can go home, and we can have our family dinner at a table, and
beautiful.
It's a great balance, and it's cool to see all the different opportunities that are opening up for him, and things that he loves. He grew up collecting every freaking Martha Stewart magazine. Martha Stewart lived since the beginning, so our living room has every single Martha Stewart.
That's amazing.
He had a KitchenAid when he was 16. What 16-year-old little boy is like, I'm going to go get myself a KitchenAid and all-clad pans. Well, the all-clad pans he bought when he was probably 15 or 16. We had until maybe a year ago.
Oh man!
So all-clad, great pans. But it's fun to see him do that. And then the second thing I do is food tours, because I used to do pizza tours. Clearly, we started this conversation with pizza. When I moved to New York City, I walked down to the West Village, and the first pizzeria I saw was the only reason why I went in because the nostalgic exterior for John's Pizzeria on Bleecker Street. I was like, what is this magical world?
Yeah.
And I got myself like a large pepperoni and a 2-liter of Coke or Pepsi, and I was like, this is freaking amazing. What is this? And I noticed the oven. So that's when I really started learning about these coal-fired ovens and everything that New York, this area in general, is known for as far as their amazing pizzas. Pizza tours happened, did that for several years, and I loved it with Scott's Pizza Tour in New York City. He's an award-winning guy. He has a documentary out about him. He knows everything about pizza, the science, the history, everything. I figured that when people started getting shots in their arms, maybe people would want to come out. So I reached out to a lot of the restaurants here. Again, this is, when I think about food, I'm not exclusive. I'll eat a Detroit coney dog. I will eat Spam, and I will go eat foie gras and caviar. There's love for it all.
Yeah.
So we reached out to a bunch of different restaurants, learned some history about the culinary history of the area and Nyack itself, and put together a food walking tour. So at that point, people would meet me down at the Bird St. George Hotel, which used to be a dining room and made the flaming rum omelet. So I'm like, this is a perfect place to start a food tour. The owner of that building has all these records from the 1940s with receipts of like a turkey dinner with mashed potatoes and pumpkin pie was like $1.20. So he has actual like nostalgia. I'm like, this has to be part of a food tour then, because it's
history.
It's history. And so we started it. We would go to pasta shop and they'd bring out, tastings. We're all masked, but step away from a couple feet, taste cacio e pepe. Oh, this is wonderful. We went across the street to my father's house and they would bring out. So keep in mind, a food tour, we had 5 stops. I'm like, okay, just one little bite at each place, just enough to get you full.
Yeah.
They're bringing out like they had chicken and waffles and honey, and I'm like, dude, we got like 3 more places to go. But the beauty of Chef Adrienne telling her story, it just really was fun for me. I'm very selfish when it comes to this stuff. It was like, I want to do this for me because it's fun to get out. It's fun to eat, meet people, and see their joy and their stories, and let them be the showcase for what makes them special. You don't have to like everything on the menu. I don't like looking at the Facebook groups where people are like, what's the favorite thing? Every place in Nyack has something special and genuine to offer. You just got to find it.
Yeah.
So anyway, started that in 2021 and still doing like private tours, Girl Scout tours. And during the summer and spring, we'll do the classic Nyack food tour where we go around the whole village up to the top of the hill and go through the neighborhoods and see some of the parks, and it's a little bit more filled out as far as history and information. And then I'm going to do Nyack this year because the previous owner, or the owner of Marlowe, moved over there and is doing really great food and beer over there. And yeah, we got cruise lines coming in to Nyack who they're dropping off customers. So I do like a little mini culinary tour of like Hudson Valley chocolates with Tree of Chocolate, and the RCC Culinary Hospitality and Culinary Arts Center does a great tour of his building as well, and so yeah,
amazing. So I love to see, you said, oh, selfishly I do these things for me, but I don't think it's selfish. I think it's smart because you're clearly very, very passionate about that. And watching you get animated and smile and start talking louder and the hands start really
comes out.
I know. It made me so charged up just watching you get charged up. So you should lean into that, because whether you're doing it for yourself or not, doesn't matter. You gave me something. Yeah. And I'm sure your passion for food and passion for teaching the arts is giving all the people in your lives the same kind of feeling that I just got just now. So please continue leaning into whatever it is that makes you happy, because it makes others happy too.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Great. So where can we find all your stuff on social media, and where can we find it on the internet so that our Nyack listeners and maybe not Nyack listeners can find you and support you and bring you their children and bring you their stomachs and bring you their brains?
Yes, families, definitely check us out, arts-workshop.com for after-school programming and summer programming and holiday camps for when schools are closed. You mentioned we have a shuttle now, trying to get more kids to the studio. That's a big thing. So www.arts-workshop.com. www.joeygsnyakfoodtours.com for all of the schedule of the year-round events. We do beer crawls on Friday nights, Saturday tours, private tours. In the fall, we have a beer, get it, boo, or booze, whatever way you want to look at it.
It's okay. He's
Beers
a dad.
and bites.
He can make a dad joke.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Totally. That one is super fun. Nyack is a great place for the fall, like the Halloween tour. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, Joey G's NyackFoodTours.com, and then Scott and Joe, FineCheeseandCharcuterie.co, I think it is.
Nice.
ScottandJoe.co for all your cheese and charcuterie needs. And if you want to come to a cheese class and have some wine paired with it, you can do that too.
Great. Joe, this was so much fun. You can find me at DylanKelehan.com, therockshopnyack.com, sonictributaries.com. What else? Liveandunplugged.live. And yeah, I do a ton of stuff too. All Nyack related, all this area. And yeah, that was so much fun. Thanks so much,
Thank
Joe.
you, Dylan. I had fun too. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. And go Nyack!
Woo!
To everything else that's going to come. Salute.
All right. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
Dude, that was awesome.